Hey, Hammy here. Coming to you today with the next section of 10.4, in which we talk about how the domain, the taxon domain, was added above the kingdom level and why that was done. Okay, if you remember back to the last video, the previous video on kingdoms in biology, you remember that we use a six kingdom system. Okay, and if you remember that that included kingdom Protista, okay, fungi, animalia, and plantae, archaebacteria, and eubacteria. Now, Weiss, who helped develop these, was not completely happy with this six kingdoms because they kind of each it looked like they were their own sort of kingdom, their own little group. Even though we had talked about using the idea of super kingdoms, this idea that some are eukaryotes and some are prokaryotes, whether they had a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles or not. And so he kind of introduced, he said, maybe we should have a taxon above kingdom. So King Philip came over for good spaghetti. Kingdom is the highest, biggest taxon. He said, let's add one above that called domain. And he said, we need to show how these different kingdoms are sort of related to each other in the eukaryote versus prokaryote. Okay, so what he did is he proposed three domains, and we now use these here today. So you have domain bacteria, which included all the eubacteria, domain archaea, which is all the archaebacteria, and then domain eukarya, were all the eukaryotes, and then there you can see this kind of grouped or lumped plants, animals, fungi, protists. It lumped them all together. And so domain eukarya shows that these all share that characteristic of having a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles, whereas these two separate kingdoms had their own domains because they were different. Just a little bit about the two bacterial domains. Domain archaea, the archaebacteria kingdom, was first discovered in extreme environments where you'd think it would be tough for a living thing to survive. You had these hot springs that were very warm and also acidic. And so oftentimes you'll see like phials, P-H-I-L. So we had these, what we call thermophiles. And as you're doing research, you may see that term. There were some others that, like, because they were also very acidic, would be acidophiles. Some they found in very salty areas. Those were called halophiles. And some, like what we'd call white smokers or these deep sea vents, again, were thermophiles. They lived kind of where it's really, really, really hot. Now, since then, we have found archaebacteria in lots of other environments. Okay, domain bacteria includes all the eubacteria, which means true bacteria. One of the main differences we use to separate, besides our RNA sequences, another really easy way to separate these two is to look to see if they have peptidoglycan in their cell wall. Okay, so down here is the bacteria. Okay, you have the lipid bilayer kind of right here, and then on the outside of that lipid bilayer, okay, remember the lipid bilayer were these little phospholipids here, what we normally think of a cell membrane. On the outside of the cell membrane, they have a cell wall with kind of this protein sugar stuff called peptidoglycan. Okay, so one easy test scientists can do is test a bacterium if they find a new one, or if they find one, they're trying to figure out what it is. If there's peptidoglycan there, okay, it belongs in kingdom eubacteria and domain bacteria. If there is no peptidoglycan, then it belongs in kingdom archaebacteria or domain archaea. As they began doing more research, Weiss found that domain eukarya is actually more similar to archaea, okay, than actual domain bacteria. So here's eukarya, domain eukarya, that have the plants, fungi, animals, okay, protista. And if you follow this phylogenetic tree back, okay, back to here, okay, and over here is domain archaea, you can see that the most recent common ancestor, that branch is right here. Okay, notice that these two branches, okay, archaebacteria, are more closely related to the eukaryotes, okay, domain eukarya, all the eukaryotic kingdoms, than they are to the other bacteria that are prokaryotes. Okay, these ones over here, you'll see that that ancestor comes back even further. Okay. Now in 2007, there's a study that suggests that maybe archaebacteria, this branch is too soon, and that it might actually, archaea might actually have to go back even further than that. Okay. But this system, these domains, these kingdoms, and how things are classified will continue to be revised over and over and over and over again as we learn new traits about them and make new discoveries with RNA and DNA and those kind of things. So it's, again, a typical science kind of thing, whereas we make new discoveries and people do more and more research, we go back and revise our thinking on how we should group things or classify things together.